Alright, testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. I think it's pretty loud. Testing 1, 2, 3. I think this is good. All right. Just okay. All right. So in this today's live stream, we're going to be able to fix the drop and pick up for the multiple weapons and refine the code. And then we're going to try to create a master class for the weapons, and then we're going to finally add the bow overlay. So as you can see, I'm using this new map in here because I think it matches the style of the game, the style of the project I'm aiming for. I still have to remove some of the blocks. They are in the way. I don't like those. They pretty much... What is this? Oh, the fog. Oh, it's Steam. Okay, they pretty much... kind of disturb the passage of the character, so I don't like those. Just gonna have to remove those later, so that we can move with the character freely. So as you can see right here, this map is very good. It's free. If you guys want, I can pin the link for downloading this map in the description down below, so that you guys also can also have the same map. So now I'm just going to go ahead and place the blueprints in the world so that we can pick it up. So here's the rifle and the pistol. Vintage Music said, bro, MacBook Air M4, 16 gigs of RAM, 10 of CPU and 10 of GPU can run Unreal Engine for game development. Like this? Well, what does that mean, a 10 GPU? I'm not sure about MacBooks because I've never used a MacBook, so I don't know really what are the recommendation settings for MacBooks. But you can search on YouTube something as I don't know, Unreal Engine 5 recommendation requirements, and then you type for MacBook. So you're going to be able to see the recommendation settings. So I think you need to be able to run at least the minimum recommendation settings for the MacBook. Alright, so I can pick up the rifle. So rifle has a rifle in hands is true. Oops, so we have a bug there. I don't know how that went, but sometimes we have like unexpected bugs and we don't really know if it's the motion matching itself or if it's the code that we've implemented. So you kind of like get in doubt, get confused about the next bugs that you're going to be able to see. So let me try to just pick up this pistol here. Oh yeah, so when I try to pick up the pistol while I'm holding the rifle, it doesn't pick up. So we're gonna have to fix that right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to the event graph of my WeaponPickup logic. And I'm going to go to the F button. Let me just see where it is. Right here. So when I press play, if I pick up the rifle, I'm just going to debug this, of course. And then when I pick up the rifle, I pick up the pistol. You're able to see that it does detect the rifle, but it cannot pick up. Probably some part of the code that is right over here. So I'm gonna have to check it out to see what is going on. Yeah, it doesn't. I think it doesn't even pass through that. Okay. Okay, here. So if the character has the rifle in hand, we have a boolean to check if the character has or not the rifle. So we're just gonna have to implement this logic and follow the logic here. So in the last live stream, I forgot to, I didn't plug this in, so that's why we have that bug in there, because the logic it's not finished yet. So what we need to pretty much do, what the expected result is to, if the character is holding the rifle, and if he's going to pick up the pistol, firstly the character has to holster the rifle, and then after holstering, he's going to be able to pick up the pistol. Now I have this code right here. This is the holster pistol macro. We don't have a code for holstering a rifle instead of a pistol. So as you can see, this one is just for the pistol. Let me just see which one, what there is in this code in here. So first we block the movement input requested by, you can either choose to block the movement input or not. by selecting this option here. So that's why I plugged in here in the inputs of the macro. And then here I notify that we are hosting the pistol. We're going to be playing an animation that's going to be hosting the pistol. And then here we're going to set the character state. And then here we're going to play a animation of the character holstering the pistol, so that you can see right here. This is the pistol holster animation. Of course, you can have better animation than this. Monster Mode said, hey, thanks for the stream. Average Dev said, nice. Yeah. So, of course, you can have better animations like this one right here. You just have to make sure that you have to add the notify window in here and the sound effect if you want to add the sound effect. So it's pretty much up to you. You just have to select and download or buy a animation pack that contains the sort of animations that you can equip the weapon. Now, in this case, I don't really have the holster animation for the rifle. I'm just going to use this one for equipping the pistol, but I'm going to make a duplicate copy of this, and the reason why is because I want to separate things. Now, in case I already have the rifle, I just have to replace the animation montage in the code. But of course, we need to separate things. I'm just going to make a duplicate copy of the montage, so that when we actually have the right montage to play, we can just replace the reference, right? I'm just going to change the name of this. Instead of handgun, it's going to be rifle. Rifle montage 1. Say. And now we're going to have to do another code. Actually, another macro for doing this, but there might be a better way of doing this, which doesn't require you to make another macro for the rifle, because if you keep doing this, you're going to fill up you're going to have a lot of macros for each weapon. And if you want to make it more modular and more dynamic, you can choose which kind of weapon. You can basically choose specific actions for each kind of weapon in the same macro, instead of just creating each one for instead of creating individual macros for each type of weapon. Aliam said, hi, do you think game development is something worth doing these days? Game development is something worth. Yeah, I think it is. I think it comes down to what you really want. Some people, they start game development with the mindset and idea that they can make a game in 1 or 2 years, and that's okay. Some people want to work with game development want to learn game development to work at companies or to work for themselves as a freelancer. And it pretty much depends on what you really want, but it's definitely worth it, because AI is not going to replace game development jobs as much as soon. Because what I think is that if you do something really technical like this right here, which you need to really define and customize and choose what's really going to happen if you do this or that. So it really depends on a specific action of the player in a specific event. So it's very much hard for AI right now to do these things. They can do it, but you actually need a developer to maybe maintain the code or really understand and see what the AI is doing if a company is working with the AI to do the game development job. And I don't think it's going to be very soon for AI to replace game developers. At least in the 8, maybe in 5-10 years, we could have something to work with AI. But it really depends. Like, anything can happen, everything can happen. We just don't really know what's going to be in the future. New Journey said, "Hey, what's up? I want to share something." Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so just need to let me just holster. I think we're going to generalize. We're going to make this macro to be holster weapon macro. So this is going to be depending on which weapon we choose. So in here, let me just see which. Okay, so this macro is run by. Yeah, so we can use the GAS pistol tag. Let me just see where the pistol tag is. Oops. Don't break it. Find reference and find by name. So we set the GAS pistol tag before we actually add the pistol tag. So the pistol and the rifle tag, those booleans are set to false in here first before they are executed. So that's a pretty good important note to take. And this is a function called tag identifier. And the tag identifier is this function right here. And it pretty much sets the GAS pistol tag or the GAS rifle tag values to true, depending which type of weapon we pick. So if the pistol has the pistol tag, it's going to set to true for the pistol tag, and if the rifle that we pick up, it has the rifle tag, it's going to set to true for the rifle tag. So you pretty much need to retrieve that information. So we're going to get that information if that boolean is true. So if it has the pistol tag, it's going to be true. If it doesn't, they're just going to make another code right below here. Or maybe not. Let me just do. I need to think a little bit how I'm going to do this. Probably it's going to be something like this. I'm going to get the rifle, the pistol tag. And if it's the pistol, that's okay. If it's not the pistol, then we're going to run another boolean, which is called is holstering rifle. I think we don't have that boolean yet. Just type rifle. If I type pistol, we have the is holstering pistol. Let me just see where is it. Okay, here. Let me just see where that variable is set and get. So that variable is only set. It's not being get anywhere else. But I think it's a very good information to have. So I'm just going to add that rifle for the rifle information as well. So I'm just going to copy this, and I've added a description in here. That's why it's important for you to be able to add the descriptions, because you can really know what's going on for each variable. You can really know what is the purpose of that variable, right? So in here, I've wrote let the code know that we're in the process of holstering the pistol, which is very important as well. Perhaps in the future you need to know that information, that state information. So it's very much important for you to write the description and have that variable in there. even though it's not being used, but I think it's very important to have that. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy the name. I'm just going to replace from pistol to rifle so that we can have that information standing there. And in case we need it, we can just retrieve it. I'm just organize this a little bit, and I'm just going to place this first so that the booleans can come first and the overlay state can come second. So here I'm going to add, if it's not the pistol tag, I'm going to add the rifle tag. If it's not, let's just handle the false execution outputs as well. So I'm just going to say doesn't have any tags, which is going to be pretty much hard to go to false, but we need to have it same way, because something can happen, something wrong can happen, and we're not going to really know what's going to be. Alright, so next thing we're going to add, actually we're going to let this code in here because this is going to be the character state is going to be set regardless if the character is picking up the pistol or the rifle or any other kind of pistol that we're going to be adding. AI is kind of a threat. Anim said AI is kind of a threat that a lot of I cannot read. AI is kind of a threat to a lot of jobs, and I really don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, we don't really know. But so far, I think based from my experience, based from the jobs I've taken, the freelance jobs, the company jobs that I've taken, I think, in my opinion, it's not going to be a really worry about right now at this current state. So I would say that I think nobody needs to be worried about AI taking jobs, especially for blueprints and C++ code, of course. As soon as AI evolves, you're going to have to really be better than the AI, if you know what I mean. Or you can work with AI, so you can learn with it and adapt. And I think really the purpose of AI is to work with humans and to be an assistant rather than replace jobs. Unless it's a job that doesn't really need to be too much technical, such as this code right here, the blueprints, and any other technical aspect of game development. As this code gets complex, as you can see right here, it's getting very complex really quickly, because as soon as we add a new weapon, we have to identify it through a tag. In this case right here, as this is a mess, it's kind of a mess. we can add enumerators. So we can start using enumerators from now, because we're going to start adding new weapons, new types of weapons, and we really need to know which kind of weapon it is. And we can just either keep adding booleans and booleans, but the code is going to be very unreadable at a certain point. But it's going to all depend on how many weapons does your code have. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and go to blueprints, and the weapons. We're going to add a new enumerator here. So you're just going to right click and add a enumerator, which is going to make our code much cleaner. Here we're going to add a E just as an identifier for an enumerator. So any enumerator can start with the letter E. Any file that you add for the type of enumerator has to start with the letter E. And I'm going to add this and the pistol tag. Pistol tag. And then here you're going to add all types of weapons that the character can possibly be able to pick up. So I'm just going to add a new enumerator. I'm going to add pistol. And here I'm going to add rifle and bow for the future update. Now I'm going to go to these weapons. For the blueprints that we created, we're going to go to them, and we're going to add this enumerator to them. Now here, we're going to add a new variable, as I've done in here. And here I'm going to select and change the variable type by clicking here in this boolean. Here we're going to type the same name that we've named our enumerator, or enumeration, as you can call it. Actually, this is not pistol tag, this is actually weapon tag, because this is going to involve so we're going to go back to the pistol 1H. Let me just see the chat. Oh, Monster Mode said in RPG the player can pick up items, use powers, interact with NPC, etc. Is it good to keep all gameplay logic in the character blueprint? Yeah, that's a very good question. And the answer is, I don't know. I think you can keep everything in the character blueprint, but if you notice some performance issues, you can do it with, you can make those separate logics into individual blueprints. So if the character is using power, maybe the power has its own code into it, so you have to keep the logic on the power blueprint. Interactions with NPC, I think it pretty much comes down to what logic there is and how they can communicate with each other. If you can keep the logic inside the blueprint itself, I think it's the best way to make everything work well and not get the character blueprint to perform badly in terms of performance. But I think my suggestion would be to keep every blueprint to each individual state, to each individual blueprint. So let's say for this pistol logic in here, if you go to edit, if I want to edit like the damage of the weapon, how much it, you know, the reload speed, I'm going to add everything here. So that's going to be the weapon logic. And I'm not going to use the sandbox character to be able to have that information because it's not needed. Of course, the character, I think, yeah. I don't know, I haven't come to that part yet, so I cannot really explain how that's going to be, but I think we're going to learn on the stream. Or is modular design better, like referencing separate components or actors and just disabling them as needed? Yeah, I think that's the best. That's the best solution. Modular design is better. I believe components can make the game much more performant, especially on the sandbox characters. We're going to be able to see that we're going to have to add a lot of, you know, kind of custom movements for the character. You can also choose it to add a component and retrieve all the states and how the character should behave from the component, from a separate component. But that's not the case right now. CF Key Lazim said, yo, what's up? CF Lazim. Yeah, Velicool said, keep it modular in components. Not all components will apply to a character. Yeah, that's true. But as long as your game is running well without performance issues, if you don't really know how to use components or you don't really know how to do modular things, you can keep everything in the character blueprint, as long as you don't add like too much complex logic. I don't know. What GPU do you currently have? I recently switched from RTX 3080 to a RTX 5070 Ti because I was having issues with sometimes my screen would just go black and I wouldn't really know why it is. So I just sold my RTX 3080 to buy a 5070 Ti, and I don't really know if that's a good a good change, but I had to do it because I was having a lot of problems with the GPU I was currently using. And especially because of the prices as well, the RTX 5070 Ti it's kind of pricey. It's very salty. The price is very salty. Vehicle said again, for instance, you can create health and damage component. You can reuse it. You can reuse it not only for characters, but for vehicles, buildings, weapons, anything that needs to have health and damage. Yes, that's a very good example. Great GPU. What did you pay for? How much did I pay for the 5070 Ti? In my country, I live in Brazil, so I paid 7,000 reals. How much is that? $1,400. $1,400 because of the, I live in Brazil, so the taxes are pretty much high in here. So that's the price you pay for having that kind of GPU. I think in the US it's pretty much I think it's cheaper. I think it's $400 cheaper, or maybe $500. I think in some countries in Europe, it's even cheaper. I think you can pay something like $850 or euros. All right, so let's go back to work. So pretty much what I'm gonna do is just add that weapon tag. So weapon tag. I'm going to name that variable to be weapon tag. So as soon as you drag that to the graph, you're going to be able to get or set that weapon tag. I'm just going to compile it first. So you have those options. You can either get the weapon tag or set the weapon tag. So setting would be if you want to set the current value of the weapon. So the reason why I've created that enumerator is that I can add that enumerator variable inside each one of the blueprints of the weapons, all existing weapons in the world. As you can see, I have different folders for each separate blueprint. I think that's not the right way to do it. We're gonna have to add a new master class after this. This is not the right way to do it. The master class, the blueprint class, it's not it's so hard to explain this. Sometimes my mind just goes blank. All right, so I'm just going to keep adding the M for the weapon tag. I think I can just copy and paste that weapon tag in here and just copy and paste that. So to do that, you can just select that and Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V to the variables. And then I can just compile, save. And in here, a pretty much important setting that you can set is the default value for the weapon. So here you can have the weapon tag. You can change it. You can change the default value for the enumerator for that variable. And then you can set it to rifle because this is a rifle. And for the pistol, we're going to set it to be pistol. As you can see, it's already in here. So that way we can read that weapon information inside the code. Now that we have now that we have that information, yeah, I think we're gonna have to create a master class for the weapons because that's going to be a lot better. So let's do that right now. Let's go to create a blueprint class. We're going to go to actor, and this is going to be BP underscore weapon master, something like this. So we're going to right click again and create the child blueprint class. And this is going to be BP pistol 1H. Child. You don't necessarily need to have the child in here, but you can write it like this just to organize things better and to know that this is a child of the BP master weapon master, or master weapon, as you can call it. And inside that pistol 1H child, you can have and add the pistol as we have in here. So we have the skeletal mesh and box. I'm just going to go ahead and copy them to the pistol 1H child. I'm just going to delete this default scene root. I'm just, if you can, okay, if I could just delete it. I cannot, but I think a better option to do this would be adding a skeletal mesh from here. Skeletal mesh. And then you're going to just drag and drop it to the default scene route and compile. And you can also add the box collision to here. And you can resize it. Actually, you can set the size, the scale of the box to be in here. So I'm just going to set it to be .2. And I'm going to go back to the pistol. Pistol child. Just going to save this collision settings in here so that I cannot forget those collision settings of the box and the collision settings for the skeletal mesh of the pistol. So in here I can just go ahead and delete the skeletal mesh and go to the skeletal mesh from here and select the pistol from here. So I can just add the pistol. Let me just see. Handgun. Now any change, as you can see, the box is a little bit far away from the weapon. If you want to edit the settings of the box, you can either set it in here if you want to set individual collision settings. For the box, you can set, like, let's say for example I want to edit the thickness, but I want to only apply the changes for the child of that pistol. So if you add 2 in here, as you can see, the thickness of the box has changed, but it's not going to change for the weapon master because it's the weapon master. And if you change it here and the child, it's not going to change for the weapon master. But if you change in the weapon master, let's say the thickness, I'm going to set it to be, let's say 6. And if you compile and save, I think it's not going to change in here because we've already made custom changes. But if you reset the value, as you can see, the default value is going to be 6 as I've set in the weapon master, right? So only in case if you reset the value back to be its default value, you're going to get 6 because I've set here to be 6. And as soon as you reset the default values, it's going to copy the default values that are in the weapon master. I hope that makes sense. All right, line thickness, I'm going to just set it to be 2. I think that's a good value. And I'm going to just go back to the pistol 1H child and move that to here. Oh yeah, I forgot the collision settings. So if you want to make pretty much the same collision settings, you can go to the weapon master, click on the box, and in here you're going to select custom, and here we're going to, for the object type, we're going to select weapon, so that the box trace is going to be able to detect the pistols, all types of weapons. And that's going to be it. Jordan said, currently I have a GTX 1660 Super, thinking of upgrading, but I don't know AMD or NVIDIA. Yeah, I think in some countries AMD is cheaper than Nvidia, but I'm not sure. You're gonna have to check it out on your own country to see which one is cheaper for you. So they can get the most highest cost. Cost per performance. Cost benefit. Rico said, great channel. Thanks for everything you're doing for the community. You're welcome. Monster mode, yes, it makes sense to keep it modular, but I think it's good to try ideas out in the character blueprint first, like a prototype, and then maybe split into modular as needed. Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. In the prototype phase, you don't really need to worry about performance yet. You just need to really know what you're going to do and test things out. And as soon as those things that you've tested out worked, you can move on to refining the code, as I'm doing right now, and making the code better and efficient. And in the future, I can make things more modular. Okay. Now for the skeletal mesh, we can do for the collision presets, we can choose custom. The collision enable is going to be physics only, and the object type is going to be world dynamic. I think this one doesn't really matter. The physics only is because if you set it to be collision enabled, the character, if the character steps on the mesh, the character is going to glitch. So in this case, we only want to have the physics only and no query collision, so that the character cannot glitch. And we can only have the physics only, which is going to make it so that the pistol is going to have physics when it is on the ground, when the character hasn't picked it up yet. And the character is going to be able to, toss the weapon away if he steps on it, if he tries to step on it. Sometimes the character could accidentally, if you land on the weapon, the weapon could, go through the ground. But I guess we could make a system later, or maybe before, maybe after everything, we could make a system that doesn't happen. We could block the weapon to glitch and go through the ground. But other than that, everything is fine. Now, as I've added the recent changes to the weapon master, we're gonna have to check it out if the changes were added as well to the child. So if I click on the skeletal mesh, let's see if those changes were added. I haven't changed anything here before, so those changes from the weapon master should be automatically passed to the child as it is right now. Now if you get to the box collision settings, everything is in there. Yep. Federico said, of course you can do trial and error in your character blueprint, just not forget them. It also depends on what you are creating and the scale potential of it. Yeah, That's true. In some cases that may be the best option. You don't want to over-engineer something simple. It's a pure use case thing. Yes, that's very much true. Yeah, sometimes doing simple things can, if you don't really know how to be able to build a system like this one that's much more, it's a little bit more complex to set up, but it gets easier because you can scale it. And that makes it simpler because it is complex at the beginning, but once you set it up and start doing things like creating the child and creating the weapon master class and creating other childs such as the rifle, for example, that we're going to do right now, it's going to be a lot easier for us to be able to scale in the need of, you know, adding multiple weapons like rifle, bow, like adding, let's say, 6 different weapons. Inside the code, it could be very complex to maybe identify all those types of weapons, you know, have like multiple booleans and each boolean detects something, and, you know, it's a mess in the code. So it's, I think this is the best way of doing things, creating a weapon master. And this is just one example of all the millions and millions of other examples you can do. And this weapon master, I think it should be in the weapons folder. So I'm just going to move that to the weapons folder. All right. And now that we have the weapon master class, we can create the enumerator, which is going to fit perfectly for this case. So here in the weapon master, we're going to add a new enumerator, and it's going to be pretty much the same that we've added to the other weapons, and which was not needed at all because we're going to create it now. And the variables that we add in here on the weapon master hopefully gets to be added to the child as well. So as expected. So here you're going to add the weapon tag, compile. The default value of the weapon tag, it doesn't really matter for the weapon master because we're going to override it in the child. So the value here is not going to really matter. If you want, you can create a new enumerator. You can place it right in the first one. And let's say if it says default, that means that the character is not holding anything, or that kind of weapon is not a weapon. It's another thing. So you can always add a default option in here, just in case that the weapon that you've picked up doesn't have that tag, doesn't have the necessary tag or the right tag. As you can see, I've added the child. If you go to the BP weapon master, you're going to be able to see that we have added the variable here. I'm going to name it to be weapon tag. And as you can see in the child, you're going to be able to see the variable. Let me just see if that variable is added in here. I cannot see. I think you cannot see it yet. If you want to get that variable that is inside the weapon master, you can get it from here. Or you can click on the weapon tag and click here on the instance editable. So when you compile, let's see if that is set in here. If I drop the child to the graph, to the world, as you can see, we have the weapon tag in here, and we can select the enumerator from here. But I do not recommend this because this is not the right way to do it. The right way to do it would be in the construction script. And then from here we set the weapon tag. And then from here we set the pistol weapon tag. I'm not sure if the best way to do this would be in the construction script or in the begin play. Maybe if something goes wrong, then we can set it to be in the begin play. But I think we should not worry about that right now. Both of them works good. It's just that the event begin play, it's only executed as soon as you play the game and the weapon is in the world. Or as soon as the weapon is spawned, this event begin play is executed. And then it sets whatever the thing you want. But in the construction script, it already sets the weapon tag, even if you add it in the world in here, it's already sets to pistol automatically, right? As soon as you add it in the word in the editor. Right, so the next thing we can do is go to the weapon master, event graph. I forgot to add one thing, which was this event in here, which is necessary for preventing the box to separate from the skeletal mesh and to prevent bugs that we had before, which was, you know, you can pick up the pistol once and you can drop it, but as soon as you drop it, you basically lose the box, which is the necessary component that we use for identifying where the weapon is. So as soon as you simulate the physics, the issue that we had before is that the box was, you know, detaching from the pistol for the skeletal mesh, and it was causing us to not being able to pick up the pistol once again. So we need to make sure that we have this code right here, and I'm just going to copy this code that is in the pistol 1H. This blueprint class, we're going to delete it because we already created the child, but we're going to just keep it there for now, just in case something happens. So I'm just going to go to the weapon master, and here in the event begin play, we can add it in here. So we're going to just make that to be in here, and the socket name is going to depend on, yeah, we're going to have to also set this up as we're working with weapon masters. As we're working with child and parents, we have to set some things up and really define which one is which. I think we can promote it to a variable and just leave it here. When you compile, you can go back to the pistol child. Or I think the best way to do this would be to cut this. Cut the current code from the weapon master and add it to individual child blueprints to avoid bugs. Still thinking about it. Or we could just let this code in here. We don't need to execute it in the event BeginPlay yet. Yeah, I'm still thinking about it. If you let it into BeginPlay, or we could just execute a custom event which would execute this code, and we could call it on each individual child blueprints. Let me see. Okay, let's try the first method, and if the first method doesn't work, we could try to do another code. So all we need to do is, on the BeginPlay, we can set in the class defaults, in the socket name, you need to set it to be handgun. So for the pistol, it's all right. So I guess that's pretty much all we need to do. I'm just going to remove the pistol 1H that we've added before and replace with the child blueprint that we just added. Now inside the sandbox character, we're gonna have to change some of the code, or most of the code, that's related to the weapon pickup and drop logic. Breath of Mesh Parade said, really love your work, bro. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Alright, so I guess the first logic that we want is being able to pick up the pistol. So if I press F in here, as you can see, it detects the weapon, but actor doesn't have a valid tag, as it says in here. And that's because we have a tag identifier. So the way to fix this would be basically we're gonna have to get in this case, we're going to have to get all actors of a class. You're going to get the weapon master, compile, and out of actors is going to give me all current actors that are related to. It's going to get all the childs that are parented to the master class. I'm just going to delete the rifle so that we don't cause any issues related to identifying which weapon it is. I'm just going to leave the pistol, which is the child, in here. So when I press play, the pistol simulates the physics, and as you can see, the character is not glitching on the weapon. The collision of the character is not glitching through the weapon as it would happen before. But at least you can move the weapon away. If you step on it, the pistol can react, and it's very much what I've needed. And on the alt actors, instead of getting the tag from the way that we were doing it before, we could just get the weapon master class, which is just basically going to get all the existing weapons in the world. And alt actors is going to get, we're going to get a for each loop with break. And in case if it identifies the generic hit actor, if it matches with this one, this is a little bit more complex for a beginner who doesn't know what are generic hit actors. A generic hit actor is basically a actor that is identified by the box trace for objects, but you cannot really, and the reason why it's generic is because you cannot really tell which, you cannot really set, for example, you cannot really set a variable inside that actor itself. Let's say, for example, we want to add the variable called walk. Let's say, for example, you want to add the variable called socket name. You can do it here, set socket name. You can see right there. You can add that, but inside with a generic hit actor, you cannot set the socket because it's generic, right? But you can find out which actor is which by doing this code in here, which is just works like magic. Unfortunately, I think we cannot make a function out of this. No, we cannot. We can make a macro. I think we can make a macro out of this just to organize things better. So collapse to macro. And this is going to be WeaponIdentifier. And this macro is going to be used for identifying the type of weapon that we're just going to currently be, that the box trace just identified. So WeaponIdentifier. So for the inputs, so this code is going to be like this. So we're going to just get the all actors of a class. We're going to do it for each loop with break to go through all the existing weapons. We're going to get our generic hit actor that the trace has detected. If it's true, which means that it matched the reference of the weapon master class matched with the generic hit actor, we're going to promote the array element, which is the result that we want, which is the reference of the weapon that we want, to here. And this is going to be called Weapon Master Blueprint. BP Weapon Master. As soon as that's true, we're going to just connect that break execution in there, so that's going to break the loop execution. And as we only have one actor, which is the pistol in here, it's going to just loop once, right? Now, in case if you have two weapons like this, it's going to loop twice, and so on, until it finds the BP Weapon Master reference, the correct reference, not the generic one, as we already have, but the reference that we need in order to change variables inside of it. So if you want, from here you can just set the weapon tag, as you can see right here, and that's the reference that we want. We cannot do that with the generic detector because it's just generic, but what? All right. So after completed, we're going to go to the outputs, and we're only going to execute out. We're going to only leave the execution after the macro has completely executed. So I'm just going to replace this, and this is just going to be called identify. Maybe weapon identifier. For the box trace. So the box trace is going to identify the object, but it's going to identify the generic hit actor to save on performance. We could also do a cast in here, but I think casts usually take a lot of, performance. Take a lot of on performance, so I don't usually do casts. I avoid casts at all costs. And as soon as it finds, we're going to and we also need to know if it found or not. So if it's found, I think I already have a variable that we check if the weapon is really found or not. But we're just going to do it again. So weapon found, just going to, if the weapon is found, we're going to continue the execution. But in here, what we're also missing is a important information, which is the enumerator weapon type. So get weapon tag. I'm just going to connect it here. And then from here, we can really know, we can use a switch. And then from here, we can really know which weapon we identified. So here we can do weapon identified. There we go. That makes it so much clearer. Okay. And if the weapon identified is a pistol, then we're going to follow this execution here, which in the old way that we used to do things would be this way. So we're not going to do that right now. We're going to cancel the weapon pickup event in case the weapon doesn't have a tag. So just make sure that the weapon has a tag by going to the pistol 1H and going into the pistol 1H child and go to the class defaults. Make sure that the weapon tag matches with the pistol, right? And the socket name matches with the socket name of the pistol of the skeletal mesh. To find out which socket you're going to use for this case is going to the actual skeletal mesh and go to the root bone of whatever weapon you're using. So in this case, the root bone of this weapon is the handgun. And the reason why it's the root bone, of course, it's not named as root. It's not named as a root. It doesn't have the root as a name for the root bone, but it is the root. And the reason why I know it's the root is because when you move the bone, it moves the whole weapon. But if you move other bones, such as button, let's see, what is this? So if you move the other bones of the weapon, you're going to move the individual modular things. The clip, you can also move the clip. And if you want to make an animation for this weapon, you can also do that in Blender by moving the specific bones, you know. And you can do a very much easy animation with this. So I'm just going to go ahead and move. I'm not going to delete it right now. I'm just going to move it up here so that we can delete it later. So if the weapon identified matches with the weapon tag, in this case the pistol, we're going to correct the foot, do the fit correction. Alright, so when the character picks up the weapon, we're going to run this execution here. So remember, if the weapon is detected, we have a variable called isWeaponFound, but I think we don't really need to run this execution in here, so I'm just going to delete it. But it's good to have those, you know, extra steps. But I think I'm not going to really worry about that right now because we have the weapon found condition is here in here. So if it's not found, we can cancel. It's very important to do this. We can cancel the weapon pickup event if it doesn't match with the real reference of the pistol that we want to, of the weapon that we want to pick. And it's also very important for you to be able to do this, so we have to always reset the default value. We always have to set this boolean to be false before we execute the for each loop, because as you can see, as soon as we run this code to launch the box trace, we're going to be able to detect the weapon. If the weapon is detected, we're going to run save the reference of the generic hit actor. And then in here, the weapon identifier, it's going to fire this logic once. So all this logic here is fired once. And this logic here from here is fired as many times depending on how many actors class of the same class exists in the world. In this case, it's just one because we only have one pistol in the world. And here is very important for you to be able to set this weapon found so that it resets the values back to false. So as you can see, we already have a branch to detect if the weapon is detected. So we don't really need to make another branch in here to check if the weapon is detected, unless you're dealing with other bugs, which is not the case. So here we have another function in order to you know, this is an old function because we already have a better way to do this, and this was the work that we had already done without the scalability, without the weapon master. So without the weapon master, we have to do all these extra steps that doesn't require you to do if you have the weapon master. So I'm just going to delete this detect pistol in here, and we also have a different function for detecting the rifle, which is again not really needed if you have the weapon master. So I'm just going to delete this and delete this, and all we need here is just this information here. Is the PP weapon master. So I'm just going to copy and paste that to here. So this event here is executed as soon as the character picks up the weapon in the animation. So what do I mean by that? So if you go to the sandbox character and go to the event graph, as you can see, we have a pickup event, and this is a animation notify pickup event. And then as soon as that event is triggered, we get the sandbox character reference so that we can use that reference to execute a custom event that is called pickup weapon event. That is pretty much the custom event that we're editing right now. So it executes the final logic that we want. Now, if you go back to the sandbox character, as you can see, this event here is triggered in the animation. Now, which animation is that? It's the animation. If you go to the animation graph, we have a separate state machine for executing the animation. So if you pick up this animation in here, we have a pickup event, and that's the event that is triggered. So as soon as the character does this movement here, the pickup event is triggered. So if you want to add a new notify, you can just add a new notify in here. So let's say you want to make the character to crouch right after he picks up the weapon. So you're going to be able to place the crouch in here, hit save. And now, of course, you're going to have to add this crouch event to all the other animations. So as you can see, you can just copy and paste that in here. And if you can go back to the sandbox character and go back to the event graph and right click and go to crouch animation notify. So as you can see, you have the new crouch animation notify. So as soon as the character picks up the weapon, you can just execute an event such as the pickup weapon event or the crouch event that you're going to have to create inside the sandbox character. So that's pretty much how you organize things better in here. Of course, this animation cannot be, in the process of picking up the weapon, this animation here cannot be, the character cannot stop playing this animation until the pickup event. After the pickup event, stopping the animation doesn't really matter. Let me just delete the crouch in here. So it's very important for you to set the character state in a way that the player is not going to interrupt the action of picking up of the pickup event, unless, let's say, the only possible action that the character could be interrupted is by, let's say, the enemy is attacking you in the process of picking up the weapon, and that in that case we could have a bug. We're not going to handle that bug yet, but it's a potential thing that we have to consider after we add the code for dealing with enemies. Yeah. With enemies later. So the weapon tag, we're going to add a switch, and the switch is a node that it basically selects an output that matches with the input value. So if the input value is pistol equals to pistol, it's going to, the execution pin, the output execution is going to be triggered. So the pistol is going to be to this one here. And if it's the rifle, we're going to select the rifle here. It's not the pistol reference. We're going to get the BP weapon master. We're going to get the skeletal mesh asset. I'm just going to basically replace the references in here. So this is a little bit of a mess, but okay, so this one is going to be to here. All right, so after that, we're going to select the right overlay state depending on if the character is... I guess we can do that by just cutting this. We don't really need to know from here. We can just set the overlay state already in here. So just to remember again, this is the event that is executed, is triggered after the character is on this animation frame right here. So as soon as the animation plays, the character is going to be able to execute this event that we're just doing right here. So as soon as he picks up the weapon, we're going to set the overlay state of the pistol to be 1H, so that we can have those states right here when the character switches to the pistol. So for example, in the ALS, it's kind of weird, the locomotion there. So as you can see, if you switch the states, if you're in the default pose, you have the character walking normally. Now if you switch to pistol, as you can see, the states change in here. So that's what we want. We want to switch the state to pistol 1H. Emra also said, is your integration replication related? Replication. Are you asking if the No. No, we're not doing replication right now. It's just we're basically doing the GASP plus ALS integration. The ALS integration is the advanced locomotion system that we have made by Caleb, which is this one right here. So we're just basically implementing the layers, the overlay states that makes the upper body of the character to change, and we're basically moving that system, that complex layering system, to over GASP, so that we can have the upper body animations on the top of the GASP system. All right, so let's try it out. Let's press on play. I'm going to debug. Okay, the debug is already in place. So I'm just going to pick up the weapon. And the weapon now is in place. I can aim. I don't know why when I click on the Epic settings, it goes back to high, as you can see right here. Set it to Epic. I press on play, it goes back to high. I'm not sure why it happens. Anyways. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for the tutorial. We got to set up our master, our weapon master, which basically, oh yeah, let's set the weapon master has to be set to default. So when you compile, save, if you go back to the pistol 1A child, you gotta make sure that the class defaults is pistol. So as you can see, it's back to default. So you can change the pistol and compile, save, and try to test it out to see if it's going to work. So when you press on play, as you can see, the weapon is now in place, and all the upper body animations work great. So sandbox character, child. So as you can see, now the weapon tag is pistol, and that's the way it should be done. So just make sure that the weapon tag in the weapon master is set to be default as its default value. And if you don't have that default option, you can add it here. So add an enumerator and name it to default. And this should be moved to the first one in the list. All right. So I guess that's pretty much it. We just what we just done here today is basically refine the weapon pickup logic, refine the code so that we can have a better performant code, creating the weapon master blueprint. And we just pretty much set it up in a way that's much more scalable in case if you want to add a new weapon. If you want to add a new weapon to your game, let's say you want to add the functionality of the bow. Let's say if you want to implement a bow in the game, all you gotta do is just, of course, create a new folder, call it bow, not this way. Call it bow, and all you gotta do is just go to the weapon master, right click on it, create a child blueprint class. So this child blueprint class name is going to be BP_bow child. So I'm just going to just move that bow child in here. Go there. There you go. Nice. And then here in the skeletal mesh, you're going to switch to bow. So you're just going to select bow in here. And that's pretty much all you gotta do. And then of course, you need to have the bow in the weapon tag and then the enumerator. So all you gotta do is just go to the class defaults and go to the weapon tag and go to the bow. And then for the socket name, you're going to select the root bone for the bow. So you're going to select the bow and select the root. As you can see in this case, in this skeletal mesh, the root bone is named as root. So you're just going to copy the bone name or just type root in there, no problem. So you're going to go to the bone, where is it? Bone child, go to the default class, the class defaults, and the socket name is going to be named as root as it is in there. So pretty much the same. Now if you drag and drop the bow in here, we don't have the I guess just one little thing that we can do, one little improvement that we can do is to set, we also have to set the socket name location for the bone, for the bow. Yeah, so we can do that right now real quick. I'm just add that implementation in here because in the next stream I'm going to forget things what I'm gonna do. Well, I've already done, so I'm just going to go to the skeletal mesh. I'm just going to go to the all right, yeah, the bow. Let me just see where the bow is attached to the in the ALS locomotion system. If you get the bow in here, yeah, it is attached to the left hand of the character, I believe so. Yeah, it is attached to the left hand of the character, so we're going to do that, the same thing. We're going to type hand R, and in here we're going to select add a new socket, and this socket is going to be named as bow. And in here I'm going to just right click on that socket name. I'm just going to add a preview asset. I'm just going to select the bow. I'm just going to remove everything, all attached assets, and I'm going to just add the bow again. Something like this. I'm just going to preview an animation just to see how the character is going to be sprinting with the bow. Okay. Just rotate it like this. Yeah, I guess we can, I can let it like this, so we can just refine it later. I'm not sure if the bow is, like the correct position of the bow is like this, maybe like this is better. How the bow is going to be when the character runs. Yeah, right here it glitches, so I'm just going to do something like this. Oh no, the string is glitching. Maybe we could do something like this in a way that doesn't glitch. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's going to glitch, even in AAA games it glitches. So I don't really need to worry about that right now. Sometimes the string or the ball itself can go through the mesh of the character, but that's not a worry about right now. It's not something to worry about right now. Now I'm just going to go over the sandbox character. And I believe if you add the socket name, let me just see, the socket name is going to be, if you go to the weapon master, as you can see, if you click on the socket name, which is a variable, we're going to type known for now as the default value. And now we're going to go back to our pistol 1H child and click on the class defaults. Let me just delete this pistol, close that out. And if you go to the socket name, as you can see, it's back to known. And as I know the root bone of the pistol itself, it's called handgun. I'm just going to select and change the naming there. Now I'm just also going to be going over our BP bold child and go to the class defaults, socket name. It is already root, so that's good. Now we just need to add one more thing to the weapon master, which is another variable to basically tell which. So okay, let me just socket name. This is going to be the root, and this is going to be the actual character. So one variable, we just input a value for, it pretty much tells where we use it for setting the root bone of the character, the root bone name. So you're just going to input the root bone name in here. And for the second one, we get the socket name character, which is basically where exactly that pistol or that, that weapon, where exactly that weapon is going to be in the character's hand. And the reason why we need that is because each weapon is going to be set up differently on the character's hand. For example, that rifle is going to be on the character's back, so we use the spine 3 or spine 5 to attach it to the character's socket location. And so we need to have different sockets. So I'm just going to go ahead and name it as a character socket, so we don't. And then in here we get this skeletal mesh root name. I think it's very much acceptable to be writing like this. Compile. All right. Now we can go back to the pistol 1A child, and as you can see in the class defaults, the skeletal mesh root name, it changed back to known. I think it's because we changed the variable name in here, so that's no problem. We can just put it back as handgun with the skeletal mesh root name, and that's going to be a lot simpler for you to be able to, find out which thing is which. And the character socket is going to be, let me just check it out where the pistol 1H. So I'm just going to double click on the character, the handgun, the hand R pistol 1H, which is the exact location of where the pistol is going to be. So I'm just going to copy that name over to here. So bold child. So I'm just going to place that name in there. Oh, not in here. It's the pistol 1H. So when you compile, and the last thing that we need to do to make it more automatic, we can just go to the sandbox character. And now what we're going to do, just copy, get the name, skeletal mesh root name, and then just copy that over to here. So that we have everything set up to work fine. And in here, we're going to select a rifle in case the character picks up the rifle. Now I'm just going to do the rest for the bow. So as you can see, the bow socket name of where the bow is going to be is, the socket name is going to be hand_r bow. So I'm just going to copy that over to the weapon master and go to the class defaults. And as you can see, you get go to the bow child and go to the class defaults and go to the CharacterSocket, and that's going to be hand_r bow. And now for the bow, socket name is going to be root. So I'm just going to type here root. And now pretty much the last thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and drop the bow in here. Oh yeah, the bow is not simulating the physics. Let me just check. Just check if it has collision. Oh yeah, the bow does not have collision. So I'm just going to make it real quick. So I'm just going to browse to that asset. I'm going to right click, create physics asset, and create an assign. As for the bow, as it has for the bow collision, I'm going to add a box. I'm going to make the collision of the bow to be a box and create a new asset. And as you can see in here, we have added, oh, nice. Okay, that's very good. Let me just see how the engine added the, yes, okay. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm just going to simulate the physics to see. Oh yeah, it looks like a paper. Let me just see if I can switch or make the constraint to be a little bit limited. Just going to lock all the constraints and then simulate the physics back again. Okay, that looks nice. Yeah, that even looks more realistic, but I don't like the string to be like that. I mean, it's good. Okay, I guess we can stick with that. So as soon as you press play, now the ball let me just set everything to simulate the physics. Okay, got your ball. Child. Simulate the physics by default. Okay, simulate physics in here. Alright, compile, save, press play. Alright, now the ball has physics. Now if I try to pick up the ball, nothing happens yet. Hopefully it doesn't crash. Terry said, how do you manage in adding all misc props? Can you explain what are misc props? Do you mean like boxes, barrels? I think my engine crashed. Yeah, I think it really crashed. I have to close it out. Yeah, I cannot even close. Alright, I guess I'm gonna have to end the stream now, because I'm gonna have to leave. It was a pretty nice stream. We've learned a lot, and I hope to see you in the next live stream. We're going to finish the masterclass implementation and add the bow, and also set the bow overlay states for the character. So yeah, I'm gonna end the stream right now. So if you have any questions, you can comment down below, either on the description of the video or on my Discord community. We have a Discord here, so you can always join. Monster Mode said, thanks for the stream, man. This was great. Yeah, thank you guys a lot. And I see you next